Okay, moving forward, I lost my roster sheet here. Is Babak Azad. You ready to go, Babak? So Babak and I are friends. We've been friends for a few years now. We've done Hell on the Hill together. Did you do 29029? Yeah, he probably kicked my butt in that as well. And what he specializes in, why I wanted to bring him here, was his understanding of maximizing customer lifetime value and the customer life cycle, and optimizing continuity programs. That's where I was trying to go with that. So is that all fair assessments? All right, cool. So let's give it up for Babak, and I'm going to get out of the way here. On button right there, bro.
Oh, there we go.
All right, cool.
All right, is this on? Hello, hello. Is it working? All right. Cool. Well, it is 9 a.m. What am I in Central here? I'm from LA, so this is 7 a.m. my time. So I was joking. I got to bring the heat early, and so I'm excited though. But I'm a morning person, so it's good for me. I was in business school at Stanford a bunch of years ago, and I took a class with Andy Grove, founder of Intel, and he had a co-professor who was this German guy, and we started at 8 a.m. And the joke was this guy was pitting out by 8:03, and he really brought the heat. And so it was an intense class, but just this idea of getting going early is kind of a little bit of my nature. Sorry, this is the clicker. All right. So Ed's description was fair. I'm going to get into my background. Really, the goal for this today, as you can see with the title, is about crafting incredible customer experiences. And my experience, and I'm going to kind of give you some context because I think that's crucial to where I've come from, and where I am today, is that this is really one of the keys both to building and scaling a lasting brand. I'm actually in the midst of writing a book about this. That's how important I believe it is, and how I've seen it to be impactful. And whether you're small or big, I've seen it basically at every stage in a company's life cycle. Can I just get a quick show of hands for a few different questions? First, I want to get a sense of scope and size of the businesses. So if you're in a six-figure business, can I see hands? Cool. Seven-figure? And 8? And then I know there's 9. And then brick and mortar companies? A couple. And then everyone else, generally e-com? Right? Okay. And then physical products and info. Okay, great. Awesome. That's helpful to know. So who am I first? I always start with this picture because it's my why. So that's my why. My wife, 2 kids. This was Halloween a couple years ago, and the reason also I put this up here is because it's a reminder to me and to you that I'm a human being, and that I have something outside of life, and that what I talk about here. And also you will find that so Evan and I cannot be more different, I think you'll find pretty quickly when it comes to how we are on stage. Once I get going, I get very intense. And so this is the reminder that I can smile and that I can be goofy. I was watching Evan, I'm like, this guy's just got a very pleasant demeanor, and he's just he's got this natural smile. Once I get going, I get like this. So you'll see that pretty quickly, and Vinny knows me, and I think he knows what that looks like. So, but that's my why, and I think it's important. So I live in LA. Just by way of background, I spent 8 years at Beachbody. I got there when we were about 100 million, so significant scale already when I got there. It was not nearly as organized and professionalized as you probably would guess for being a 9-figure business. And then I left 10 years later when we had crossed $1 billion and growing. So that was 3 years ago. I built the analytics teams first, and then oversaw media and customer acquisition for the last 5 years. And kind of over $500 million in media we ran during my time there. I was a math major in college. As I mentioned, I went to business school. So also, as opposed to Evan, I was not an entrepreneurial kid. I'm not even sure I'm entrepreneurial. I don't really know what that means for me exactly. But I was not the startup kid. I wasn't tinkering and whatever. I grew up in an upper middle class family. I basically kind of had it easy relative to a bunch of people I know. So I was not that kid who, in person, and I frankly am a little bit surprised of where I'm gotten to today. From the time I made a decision to leave Beachbody to the time I left was 16 months. I was married, I had a wife, had 1 kid at the time. And I say that because for me, I would say none of this stuff has come naturally. It was never in my blood. But the cool thing for me now is So when I got to Beachbody, no one was really looking at joining an infomercial company and a network marketing business, and that's certainly my Stanford business school friends. And so I've kind of like been a very nice, I think, bridge and link between different worlds, and I think that's actually one of the strengths that I have. So what do I do today? I left 3 years ago to go start something. We failed miserably in 3 months, couldn't get out of our own way, and so I had to pay some bills and started picking up clients and really just started building my own consulting business. Round Two Partners is the name. These are some of the folks I work with really across industries. But really, I help performance marketers build brands. And that language is very intentional. I come from a performance marketing background. I obviously have a quant background, which is kind of helpful when it comes to that, but really work with people who want to build brands. And that's really about longevity and lasting. And really, there's a filter around, do you care about the product? Do you care about the service? And by the way, I will use the word product here. If you're in a service business, just interchangeable. I find it easier than saying product or service every single time. Generally speaking, I'm better at scale. At 20 million and above, 0 to 3, 0 to 5 is really not my core. I think what you need to do there is very different than once you get to 8 figures, 15, 20 million run rate and beyond. And really that's where I come in. I work with some awesome brands, and the fun part is usually people come to me when they're starting to scale and they need help. And they realize that what they've been doing needs to change. And so because I've seen scale, kind of it's a fun little fun job. And really trying to help people from 8 to 9 figures. So what I used to talk about at events. So Ed was talking about customer LTV, continuity, all that stuff. I was heavy data driven. I still do this. And so nothing I'm going to talk about today, and especially when you hear customer experience, I think a lot of people have their own sense of what that may mean. But I think it's very important to know that everything I do is grounded in results, ROI, very heavily in that. So nothing has changed from that perspective. But I used to talk about LTV, CPA, churn, ad nauseum. I put graphs and charts up like this, talk about how Facebook was driving Google and brand search and organic, and it is, and that's awesome. I've got case studies. It's all free if you ever want it. So if you're running Facebook, pay attention to Google and organic and direct, all that stuff. But I put charts up like that. I put charts up like this to help you think about what's cohort analysis when it came to retention and analytics. Again, free stuff. I can talk about this stuff for hours. At 9 a.m., this is really intense, and I don't think you all want to go into this kind of thing. Plus, it's hard to see, and I don't have a pointer. But so now the conversation began to shift. And this was a very intentional one. I started talking, and I found it very interesting that a lot of direct-to-consumer brands, companies, didn't actually talk about the word brand. And it wasn't in the lexicon. And the idea around actually building a direct relationship and having a conversation and interaction with the customer was something many D2C companies didn't actually want, which I found kind of ironic that you actually want to be direct-to-consumer, but the moment that customer actually contacts you, scared, that's bad, that's not a good thing. And so this conversation started to shift a bit around what is a brand and what does it mean? And the idea around working with people who actually care about their product, care about their customer. Because for me, at the end of the day, building a brand really means you're just paying attention to the experience that the customer is having. What is that product experience? What is that experience with your customer service reps? What is it experience with the website? All those kinds of things. And you know the benefits, you can charge a premium, higher valuation, you get word of mouth, fewer bad reviews, it helps in hiring. If you're at a company or have been at a company that has really bad reviews, it's harder to hire, right? And so all these things are actually related. It's not just customer facing, it's employee facing too. And by the way, it actually helps in customer acquisition. So this was an analogy I've always kind of used, which is if you compare income to wealth, is DR to brand. So I think the goal, if your goal is brand, then you need kind of the DR side to generate cash, to get things going, and you gotta be more tactical in that kind of way. And if you wanna generate wealth, you can't do that without income. But so you need the left side to build the right, and they kind of work together. And that's really how I've thought about trying to bridge these two areas before your presentations and know your audience. So my question really to you is the concept of a brand, is it in your thinking? Do you actually think about it day to day? Does it come up in conversations with your team, with your vendors? Is it a goal that when you tell people we're actually trying to build a brand? And by the way, if you're just in cash flow or you're just in lifestyle, that's fine. This stuff will still totally apply to you, and I'll show you how. But this is a big part, big thing that I've been really want to hopefully raise and make sure, get more people to think about and talk about. So what happened too, though, was part of the reason I'm kind of where I'm going with this. A lot of people I talked to didn't respond well to this. And they're saying, like, you know what, that's not for me. So I had to figure out a different way around this. So if I could find a way to talk about brand, but that was rooted in retention and acquisition. Because most performance marketers and DR folks love retention and acquisition, but brand may not be as relevant. And so that's really what got me here with one other thing, or two other things. The LTV CPA churn conversation and all those things around it can be very, very effective. I came from paid media. I love paid media. I want to be controlling traffic, all that kind of stuff. It is effective and exhausting. And what I mean by that is it is just tiring to always trying to be doing that next thing, like how do you get that 2% incremental to churn and acquisition and all that stuff. And by the way, the core work that I do is still rooted in that. So I am not saying that paid media is bad. And by the way, like I help people, and when you work on all those little tactical things, that absolutely makes a ton of money and can. It is also still, it is pretty exhausting. And so this idea of how do you get around that more? How do you look at the brands that, or companies that have actually built brands? What are they doing? And it's not about don't spend money on marketing. It's just marketing doesn't always have to be media. And that distinction was really an important one that some of my friends actually helped me kind of understand a little bit better. This concept that it's never been an easier time to start a business is awesome, except if you're an existing business owner and you're an incumbent, because that means more competition. So it is awesome that there's never been an easier time to run a business, but you know what? If you have a business today, I think we all say what competition makes us better, but would you rather be in a monopoly or be in a heavily competitive business? I'd always pick monopoly. So let's be honest about that. So that is great, but it also means there's never been a harder time to acquire and retain customers. So what that drives is really a need for differentiation, customers wanting to come back, customers thinking you're a 9 or a 10. So who here is familiar with NPS, Net Promoter Score? Okay, so Net Promoter Score is a test I have always associated with brand marketers. Again, I kind of come from this original mentality that there's DR folks and brand folks, which is not correct, in my view at least, that you got to kind of look at things not just either or, but and. But Net Promoter Score is basically a test, or you basically put it out to your customers, and you ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us? What's been your experience? All that. 9 and 10 is +1, 1 through 6 is -1, 6 and 7 is 0. Sorry, I think 6, 7, 8 is 0. Right? And so that sounds like a very, very high bar, that you only get credit for the 9s and 10s, 1 through 6, yes, 1 through 6 is negative, and 7 and 8, which actually sounds pretty darn good, is actually a 0. Big brands like Amazon, Apple, Nordstrom, they are in the 70s and above, and that is a phenomenally high score. It's very, very difficult to be that good, but this concept of, first of all, the NPS test, I used to kind of poo-poo. I've actually gotten way more, I believe in it. You can run it to your own list. Like, you don't need, it's nothing proprietary. But that idea that you have to be at a 9 or a 10, like that is a very high bar, but that is the world we are operating in today. Because there is so much competition, because it is, there's so much distraction, because there's so many options, if you're not a 9 or a 10, it is just so much more difficult to acquire and to retain customers. And so that idea that 7 and 8, which sounds pretty good, I don't know if that's B+, like that's generally pretty good. 9 and 10 is really where the goal really kind of has moved to. So this idea around what is something that bridges brand, acquisition, retention. And what I started finding and started working on with clients was that those people that had built sustainable brands, and whether they had started from 0, they had bought something, whatever, one of the things that unified them was they'd all crafted incredible customer experiences. And I think if you think about Amazon, Nordstrom, Harley Davidson, there is a sense of what that brand stands for, grounded in that experience that their customer, whether it's you or someone else, has had. And so what's a great customer experience? You know, leaves people, I think there's no great, awesome explanation, but let me put some kind of words around it so that I'm kind of grounding here. It leaves people amazed, whether or not they're existing customers. I think there are companies that you may not be a customer of, where you're still, not even as a marketer, but as a human being, amazed and love what they do. Customers know they've interacted with a different type of business. They're excited to buy again, as opposed to dreading something else hitting their card. And very, very important. It creates a meaningful point of differentiation. The companies that are all in this room today, you guys are all in a brutally competitive category. And so you got people next to you, people like hundreds and hundreds of people outside of the room that are doing very similar things, at least from a consumer side. And so how are you going to differentiate from all that other noise and all that other mess? Not just to get, but to keep your customers. And then certainly to increase LTV over time. So how do you do it? There are 4 core categories I've kind of broken down. And I'm going to go through a few of these. But really, it's the raw human stuff. Let me actually just jump to this slide. And then I'll show you which ones I'm going to go through. But really, it's the raw human stuff, which is things like identity, community, personalization, all the stuff that, whether you want to call it NLP, Cialdini stuff, but really core human things to tap into. There's product. I find it kind of amazing that I'll go to conferences and people talk about all the tactics and all these things, and whether in the room or outside the room, there's not enough conversation around product. And that sounds really, really obvious. And if you're talking about product all the time, that's great. But I just see a lot of places I go where people actually aren't talking about the product. And especially when you look at like the ASMs, the things that have come out, and it's like just private label, private label. You want to start that way, that's great. But over time, your customer actually is going to care about the product because that is what they're buying, part of what they're buying. And so all the things around product, the transactional experience, so what is it like to buy, what is it like to return, all those kinds of things, and then content. So how do you deliver the message? And these are not mutually exclusive. They can be layered, like identity and video can show up. And I'm going to show some examples, at least talk through them here. So the ones that I'm going to go through are the ones in red. I felt like some of those are a little bit more applicable here. I'm intentionally also pulling some brands that are outside of the core of health and fitness because I think it is really important. I think you guys have probably analyzed your own categories decently enough. I'm going to have a few in here, but I think sometimes it's really helpful to see brands in other categories and some that are big and that are small. So there's a spectrum here. So what this isn't, it's not traditional brand marketing. So please, if you come from this mentality like I used to, that, oh, this is just for big brands and that doesn't apply to me, I guess I'll use Evan's thing, suspend belief for a moment, or what your thing is. This isn't just soft stuff that isn't measurable. It absolutely is. This stuff should be driving acquisition in the form of more spend, lower CPA, higher retention, lower refunds. Different ones will drive different buckets, but it absolutely should be measurable to you as a business owner. And it's not just for those who want to build a brand or want to sell. So I kind of air quote this whole thing of like if you're just in a cash flow business or you just want to be in a lifestyle. Again, I don't come with any judgment around that. I really want to make sure this stuff applies to you as well. I think this really applies to all marketers. So let's look at the human stuff first. Harley Davidson does not make the best motorcycles at all. Like technically there are absolutely better motorcycles on the planet, and certainly there are cheaper ones than what Harley produces. But when people see the logo and they think about Harley and they think about that customer, what these guys have done unbelievably well is tap into identity and community. There is a sense of freedom that now has become associated with Harley Davidson, which is partly why it's 40 and 50-year-old folks buying it. It's price point, but it's also that point in their life. They're looking for a sense of freedom. It's midlife crisis. The kids may or may not be in the house. The reality of their life is kind of coming to fruition a little bit. And so Harley Davidson started out targeting farmers in the 1900s, and then it was Hell's Angels and Easy Rider, and then it slowly started to bridge. And once they started finding that people started associating the bikes and that lifestyle and that sense of community with their brand, they've started pushing. So they do something called the HOG group. I forget what it stands for, but it's basically these are sponsored clubs by the company, but at the local level, so that they know that their customer, it's really important for them. One of the things they bought into is both that sense of identity, but also riding with other Harley riders, right? It's that connection of, hey, you are a Harley rider, I am, we both want this sense of freedom. So what they did was once they saw this stuff happening, the company started sponsoring, and the dealers really are the ones doing this, local events to encourage that interaction. So we have online Facebook challenges and Facebook groups to bring communities together. They do it in the offline world because it's a physical product, right? But they intentionally bring together people who want to be bridged together. Dollar Beard Club. Imagine most people have seen this video. They satired Dollar Shave Club. They're now rebranded as The Beard Club. This video did a phenomenal job of tapping into identity. So if you've never watched it, I want to show it, but if you've ever watched it, they basically talk about what it's like to be a bearded man and the life that you live as a bearded man. And so the sense of bringing together and pulling in people who already have beards and creating that sense of aspiration that don't you want to live this cool life, to drive in a limousine, to like Chris was pretty damn ripped in that thing. So there's association with that. There's the fun he has. And so that video was absolutely a customer acquisition vehicle. But that was totally grounded in the sense of identity and the community. He even like throws words like brotherhood, right? And the brotherhood of being a bearded man. And so that idea that customer experience is very, very early on. So it's not just some high and flighty thing. And so you have Harley Davidson on one side doing it in one way, and these guys are doing it in a very grounded way that's also video driven. Again, that's what they were very, very good at. And really my goal too is I want to kind of show a bunch of examples, and hopefully you just get one or two ideas that you start with, and I'm going to talk about implementation at the very end. Loot Crate is a subscription box for gamers and nerds. They use that language. It's not pejorative at all. The reason I show that is I love this. This is their on their order confirmation page. That image is their avatar. And so one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is not go deep and hard with their core avatar. So this may not be your avatar, but for their core customer, it absolutely is. And so oftentimes it's like, oh, we don't want to alienate the 30% of customers that are doing this. Honestly, go deep on, if you have 60, 70% or a certain kind of avatar, go deep and hard on those, because connecting, when the avatar sees that image, they know for sure that the business knows who they are. And they're not afraid to do that. They also use that word, the looter community. This is their order confirmation email. It says, hi looter, talks about a looter community, talks about you're automatically new unless you cancel or there's a zombie apocalypse. That language very much resonates with the sense of identity that their target avatar has. And so they know their customer, and we talked about this yesterday, know your customer, speak their language. Personalization. So everyone talks about personalization. I just thought this is one pretty quick, slick one. So this is my wife's best friend. She's got a beauty business. That bottom thing, let me zoom in on it. They do a selfie match. So buying beauty products online is very difficult because your skin color and the tone is actually very difficult. Your screen, all that kind of stuff, right? So what you can do is you can take a picture of yourself, upload it, send it to the business. They'll look at it. They know their products. And it basically mimics being at the counter, but you're not at the counter. You're in a digital world. So very simple. I take a picture, upload it, and the company looks at it. And obviously, you got to respond correctly. You got to hope that your matching is actually doing a pretty good job. But when you're confused as all heck on what color and what kind of thing to buy, you just take a picture, snap it, send it. That's pretty darn easy, and that's relatively personalized and also mimics that experience of being at the counter. So inclusivity. So exclusivity is certainly one. I think that creates a phenomenal experience. In this regard, inclusivity does not mean the opposite of exclusivity. Exclusivity is for certain people, but inclusivity doesn't mean this is for everybody. It's really, in this context, it's about, are you going after the underserved? And so Gwinny Bee used to be, they've changed their model a little bit, but if you're familiar with Stitch Fix, which is a subscription box for apparel, you get 5 cents a year, whatever you like, you keep and you pay for it and you send it back. Gwinny Bee was doing that for plus size women. So it was originally 10 to size 32. That was who they were going after, because Stitch Fix and all the other brands weren't going after plus size women. That was who they were going after. Earlier this year, they expanded to everyone, and I don't know, honestly, if it was under the guise of inclusivity that we got to offer to everyone, or the model didn't work. But I do think that idea of find niche, they also raised money, and when you're raising money, you got different challenges than when you're bootstrapped. But that idea of tapping into the underserved and who is not being paid attention to is a very, very powerful thing. And they had very strong, very simple imagery about this, because most beauty brands, most apparel brands, it is size 2 women. It is, everyone has read and talked about this, I think, ad nauseum, but particularly this group felt completely ignored. I think in health and fitness, Nerd Fitness has done a pretty darn good job with this. It's kind of like Loot Crate, right? But for nerds and games. I mean, nerds and gamers. And so just with the name, they own it. And so this idea that if you're a nerd, that how do you have a workout program that's different for you, and just a fun little play on things and a different angle towards it. I think that, again, it's a very simple view of inclusivity. Surprise and delight. So everyone talks about surprise and delight. I want to share just one. Actually, yeah, I'll skip over the second one. So Link wine subscription business, one of the cool things they do, they don't publicize this, they have 2 referral programs. And this one is actually more effective than their regular one. So whether you do a one-sided or two-sided customer referral program is one thing. These folks, after you've ordered your 3rd box, they give you the opportunity to invite 6 of your friends to get a free box. So 4 wines for free. That customer has to sign up for a subscription and give their credit card, but if I get 3 boxes, I can gift any 6 people with unique codes the opportunity to get a free box. This is driving more customer referrals than their 2-sided one that they already have. And by the way, my customer account is inactive, and I still have the ability to send those invitations. So this is my own account. I've canceled a little while ago, and I still have the ability to do that. So that idea that it doesn't go away even though I stopped actually paying is actually a pretty cool thing. And I'm just amazed that it actually still exists today. I'm going to skip over these guys. Product. Who's familiar with Buc-ee's? Okay. So Buc-ee's is a convenience store. And I find it amazing that I put a convenience store in a deck talking about customer experience. So Buc-ee's is in Texas. They basically took everything that was horrible out of a convenience store, which the list is quite exhaustive. They are crowded, they are dirty, the food is horrible, the service is horrible, and they did the exact opposite. They basically have these 100,000 square foot, basically ginormous boxes that are the cleanest places you've ever seen. The customer service staff is awesome. The food is impeccable, and to say that food at a convenience store is amazing is just unbelievable. And they have like 50 gas station tanks, so you're never waiting in line for it. These guys basically looked at what was going on with convenience stores and said there is a whole bunch of mess, literally and figuratively, and how do we do this a lot better? And I think they're an awesome example to say there are a lot of competitors out there in your niche, in your category, that are doing things, and you know that they could be done a lot better. Find those pain points and then serve them differently. Because when people are driving across Texas, families are intentionally stopping and going out of their way to stop at Buc-ee's because it is that good of an experience. I actually went to Austin and my friend said you have to drive 45 minutes out to go look at a Buc-ee's because it is that good. Their urinals have dispensers with Purell. It's literally the most immaculate convenience store I've ever seen in my life. Simplicity, we talk about it. I think the idea of what In-N-Out Burger has done, so In-N-Out Burger, I'm assuming most people have heard about it, but if not, it actually is the best burger, and I know people get in fights about that. To think that 30 years ago you would start a burger business that only offered hamburgers, cheeseburgers, doubles, fries, and drinks. That's it, and you're gonna have to wait 20 minutes to get it. That is the In-N-Out Burger experience, right? Just on paper, and any MBA would say that is the stupidest idea on the planet. And they now have God knows how many locations, right? Because they've created this amazing experience. The food is exceptionally good. It is actually very simple. They actually have in some ways, a little bit of the opposite of simplicity at times. They have the secret menu, and that adds to the experience, and you gotta know and Google it, and your friends have to tell you. But the burgers are awesome. That's why people buy them. The shakes are awesome. That's why people buy them. And they're willing to tolerate 20 minutes in line for a burger when McDonald's and Burger King can get you served in 3 minutes and get you in and out of there. Because the product is so much better and it's just a very simple experience. Packaging. What's that box? Tiffany's. Anyone know that bottle? 1942. Shoes? Christian Louboutin. And I'm going to put Amex. So who here has the new Amex Platinum card? It is a noticeably heavier card to the point where it's you actually realize it, and when you hand it to someone, they will say, wow, this is a heavier card. And granted, you don't do swipes nearly as much, but each of these things, there is a very distinct experience when someone gifts and receives that Tiffany box, when you get the 1942 bottle, certainly when you see the red soles of those shoes, and when you're holding an Amex Platinum card. Let's be serious. Let's be honest about it. Packaging does matter. So how you deliver the product, how you deliver what it is that your customer is holding, absolutely will make a difference. Let me go through a couple last things. Order notifications. A lot of subscription businesses do not like sending order notifications with the mindset that if I tell the customer the next shipment's coming, they're more likely to cancel. That is correct. With a 20-30% open rate on emails, if you're lucky, and certainly order notification ones, I absolutely guarantee you that if you send order notifications, your immediate churn rate is going to go up. But if you do what Dollar Shave Club has done and make that order notification a promotional opportunity to say, your next box is coming, would you like to add anything to your order? Right? And by the way, we did this with ButcherBox. It was one of my clients. We did the exact same thing. We have exclusive member-only deals. So you only get this ridiculous blazing deal if you're a member. And by the way, we call them members, not customers or subscribers, because members are treated differently, both internally and externally, than a customer or a subscriber is. You'd much rather be a member of something than a customer or a subscriber. And that sounds nuanced and super simplistic. It makes a huge difference. But basically, customers get that email. So from a brand side, you're good. For people who are going to cancel, that's fine. But you know who does this the absolute worst? The meal subscription companies. Blue Apron, HelloFresh. I can't tell you how many posts I've seen and I have done where I've been pissed as all heck. Because what happens? The box shows up on a Wednesday, and for next week's order, you got to cancel it that same day that you've got the current box. And they think they're slipping in 1 or 2 more transactions, and they are. But the impact to the brand and the number of people I have posted myself saying, do not order from these folks because I'm pissed because it sucks to get the box and I got to make a decision for next week's order. So they think they're doing it. That's why I wrote a long piece on Blue Apron. I have no pity for what Blue Apron is going through right now because their experience is complete crap. Like, why do I have to make a decision today on next week's stuff? I haven't even opened the damn box yet, and you're telling me that I got to have made a decision, and I never remember it. And then how many times does that happen? And people are just pissed. And it buys into this idea that I don't want to sign up for a subscription because I have to remember to cancel this stupid thing. So yeah, your churn rate is going to go up. I guarantee you, but your brand is going to get better over time. And by the way, increase your LTV. Ask them if they want to add something to the dang order. This works really, really effectively for ButcherBox and for the Dollar Shave Club, which is why we implemented it. All right, last couple things. Video. Peloton, I used to hate these guys. They are absolutely killing it. This is basically SoulCycle meets Beachbody, or what you would hope it to be. They have killed it across every single part of the thing. The bike is awesome. The video itself is awesome. The workout is awesome. The music, it is absolutely amazing what these guys have done. I have no sense of their profitability, but if you want to look at like where fitness is and where it's going and what these guys are doing, especially from an at-home and a physical product side, they are the model. SoulCycle and Peloton is essentially the same experience. Each nails their own one in their own way. SoulCycle shows up at the gym and they nail it there. Peloton has nailed it when it comes to at home. I could just go on forever about Peloton. Saddleback leather, anyone familiar with Saddleback leather? They make high-end leather bags, $400, $500, $800 bags. They created a video, their CEO did it. It's basically called How to Knock Us Off. It is the most amazing video I've ever seen to show the benefits and the features and the quality of a product in a very cheeky way. So basically what they did was they said they go step by step through the product. And they say, well, here are the materials. If you wanted to knock us off, you could use this kind of leather or this kind of leather or this kind of leather. You could cut corners here and here. The stitching, here's where you could cut corners. But in doing so, they basically show you the quality of their product. And so if you want to knock it off, you learn how to do it. But they basically go through and say, this is the quality stitching. This is the kind of material. This is the process we go through. It is the most innovative way I've seen. And it's a 14-minute video, which is why I'm not showing it here. It is very, very innovative to basically backdoor into showing people just how good that bag is. Final one, watch the experts. Each of these brands, one of the things they do really, really well is they have people who are experts in their category, whether it's food, at-home stuff, video games, and then just crazy shit. People love watching experts. They want to learn. And so in your category, figure out what it is that you do really well and that your customers want to do really well. Because people love watching experts, whether it's crazy stuff that you're never going to do like Red Bull, and like certainly like Benihana. I'm never going to cook like that, so I want to go experience it. But Home Depot shows me how to make stuff at home. And so they have free content instead of online. It's in the store, right? But if you actually realize that I'll be done, you are an expert in your category and customers actually want that, then figure out whether it's content, at home, in your brick and mortar locations. People love getting better and seeing people who are experts at something.
All right, let's give it up for Babak. we have time literally for like 2.5 questions. So I'll start with a half question. Do you have a Peloton?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite instructor? See, you didn't say instructor, and I know that's because you like Ali Love like I do.
No. I like Robin and Alex.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Robin's got a foul mouth, and so she says, "Don't have your kids around." But she's intense, and yeah, she kicks my ass.
Yeah. Ali Love. Anyone else know who I'm talking about?
Ali Love.
She calls me boss. That's all I'm gonna tell you. She's like, "You got this. You got this, boss. Come on, boss." Huh? Is it Mike? Oh, it's a bike. Yeah, it's hysterical. Oh, get out of here. All right. All right. If I'm leaving here, and all you're giving me is like 2 things to do immediately, like that could be done by the end of the week for coming from your whole presentation, where would you say you have to do this and you have to do this right away?
So I would think about what's your biggest point of leverage and your biggest pain point that your customers are complaining about what you're doing today, and what kinds of things can you change right away. You know what your customers' biggest pain points and annoyances with you are, or annoyances with your competitors are. So how are you going to be different than everyone else? The worst thing I ever heard from a subscription company when I said, you guys don't send order for notifications was, well, a whole bunch of other people do it. And that customer service rep should be retrained. But you know what the biggest pain points your customers have with your businesses, and some things you can't control right away because it's tech and it's ops and whatever, but figure out what that is, and then figure out how do you tap in. So identity and community, the reason I lead with it, that's the most powerful stuff.
You know what's interesting? I mean, I'll just say this, like, you guys are in the group. It's like when I went through Six Pack Shortcuts like funnel, I couldn't order one bottle unless I was opted into the continuity. And it has like, it's like all the small lettering, and I was like, still in this day and age, like, you have to deal with this. Like, this is stuff that was like 12 years ago, FTC asking to just come crush them.
Now, I would say ButcherBox, it's only subscription. We're working on.
But you know that though, right?
Right.
When you join into it.
Yeah, and there's the ability to pause, to skip, to order notification. So yeah, you're signing up for a subscription, but we basically do as much as we can to let you know that if you want to make changes, you have the power to do so on your terms, not on the company's terms.
Yeah, Rome.
That was awesome. Like, I had a semi the whole time. Seriously, like it was like such a big shift, Now I have a question though. When you sit down and you start mapping out this process, what is your mindset going into it? Like, do you have and what is like the structure of like how you start mapping this out?
So a couple things in there, which my last 2 slides. So how do you start is one of the biggest questions. I say just pick something that you know is important. Like literally, you got to get going. The goal is a cultural shift in your organization. That is way too daunting to begin with today. So trying to say you want to be $1 billion business today is like, I think that's too damn daunting of a goal. 100 million, great. I mean, that's awesome, by the way. I'm gonna steal that for myself. Just start. So find something and figure out 1 or 2 key points of leverage in your business. Find 1 or 2 places where you know you can be different. So if you suck at video, either don't do it or hire someone. And so like there's certain things that I don't do. Gary Vee talks about like he doesn't write because he would suck in that media. So he doesn't do it, he has other people do it, right? So figure out what can you be exceptionally good at. What can you be a 9 or a 10? Not a 7 or an 8, what can you be a 9 or a 10 at? But ultimately you gotta just start and just start testing. It's like everything, right? It's on my phone. Done is better than perfect. Like you gotta just get going. So pick 1 or 2 things, but really it's like all the stuff we've been talking about, understand your customer, your avatar, tapping them, all that kind of stuff. This is just totally, just infuse this in it. I'm not saying become a brand marketer and spend without like knowing any measurement. Not at all. If you can create videos like Chris did with Dollar Shave Club or Dollar Beer Club, go do that. If you suck at video, don't do video. Find something else to do. But you probably know your points of leverage in your business. If not, talk with some people, and I mean, that's what I do with my clients, but like that's what I would do is try to figure out where can you actually affect bang for a buck. Because what you want to do is just like in weight loss, you want to get some wins, right? Once you get the wins, then you can go from there, right? And if you go a while and you don't get any wins, like it becomes really discouraging. So just even some baby steps, and then your team and other people will start to see it, and then you start to shift things. Because the reality is, it's affected everywhere. That's the daunting part.
I'm coming to you, Vinny. One thing we did for this event was we put a little messenger chat box asking them like, hey, are you a beginner or are you advanced? Just something simple like that. And I personally answered every single messenger chat that came in. I felt it was that important. And it was amazing to me, 90% of the people that were asking questions were like beginners. and they're like, hey, and they all said the same exact thing to me, which was, this seems like it's way too advanced for where I'm at, which was really good for us to get feedback because it told us that like, okay, so we added some bonuses to try and give them some foundational work. But now I have all the messaging and questions of when we launch our next health intensive, which is not a traffic mastery type event. We know exactly what all the questions are asking. So that's one small, like that's not even anything. It's just getting closer to the customer. Vinny, last question.
So, I love that you work with big brands because when I ask you questions, they're like bigger thinking things. So, by the way, I love the retool, the way you're coming at this. The geek in you this is way better. This is awesome.
So everything you did in the past just kind of sucks, is what he just said. But he's just saying.
No, it's just super
This is a
technical. You're
great-
the smartest guy in every room, so it's just
Yeah.
way above everybody. But this is awesome, dude. So as things get bigger, one of the things I'm watching and I'm struggling with is what things you keep saying, well, here's the thing you should do. What things should I stop doing? And what list of things I need to start getting away from me? Like, because one of the things we talk about is how you figured out what brands to work with, what things. Like, so what's some advice about things we should stop doing?
So I used to have a slide that said, are you focused on building a brand? And there were 4 or 5 questions. So I'll answer 2 ways, and I know we're trying to wrap. So how many mids do you have? How many Facebook accounts or business accounts are you opening every single day? But then more importantly, if your mom or your child years later or today saw the business and you told them all the stuff you do, would they be proud of you? Or would you, more importantly, would you be proud of yourself? If a customer comes and sees you and finds out that you're the owner of the business, how do they react? And what are the good things and what are the bad things? And so just that alone, I think oftentimes just starts to expose. You probably know, pardon my French, you probably know the shitty things you're doing. You probably know the sketchy things you're doing because you know what? I'm just at 6 figures. I'm just at 7 figures. Once I get to this point, then I'm going to stop doing it. You know what? Yeah, you got to win the short game to win the long game. I totally understand that. But you know what? You got to
Sometimes it's the short game that's preventing you from winning the long game,
Sure.
right?
But I think the answer, people generally know what they should stop doing, which is what is the stuff that the customers are pissed off about, and how do you figure out a way? And by the way, like there are things again like tech. I get it. Sometimes you can't do it right away, and like you're like, yeah, I know, but I'm working on it. So great, fine. You're good with that. But oftentimes it's what are the things you're just trying to slip in? What are the things that like your product should be a lot better, and you're just spending 0 time getting it better, right? So there's like, I understand there's effort and results and all this kind of stuff, but like you've got to have a path towards making things better. But I just think about like what the 2 sides are really, what do your customers complain about that you know should be different in whatever context, and then ultimately, how are you going to be different than everyone else?
Awesome, cool. Anything you want to say before we let everyone out for break? All right, let's give it up. Let's give it over to Babak. Let's go. Awesome. Hey, it's 10. Listen up. It's 10:02. It's 10:02. If we can actually take a 10-minute break, be back here 10:12. We have Shelby Larson, who says she has something nobody's ever seen ever. No pressure, Shelby. And then we have Goer, who's going to be talking about how they're winning on Twitter. All right. So good job, everybody. Again, Babak will be in the hallway answering questions and signing autographs.